Hey there, this is Mr. Icarus, and welcome to yet another edition of Doom Mod Madness. This time around, we're checking out Void and Rainbow, a single level WOD that I quite recently stumbled across and decided to cover for the simple virtue that it looked kinda trippy. I mean, it takes place in various floaty environments, seemingly in the void of space, hence the void in Void and Rainbow. But if you're wondering where the rainbow comes in, that would be here. Seizure warning, by the way, these repeating rainbow colors do permeate throughout the entirety of this WOD, in some cases getting pretty big on the screen, so feel free to click away from this video if you think that would pose a problem for you. Wouldn't want anyone to suffer unnecessarily. But by now you can probably tell why I was interested in this one. It's certainly unconventional in regards to its layout, design, and style, and it even manages to inspire a little bit of vertigo in me, mainly due to the sparkly star paths that I'm traveling across here, making me feel slightly unconvinced that I'm actually walking on solid ground. You may also be wondering what happens if I fall off the path here. Does it work like Strange Eons, where rather than killing me, it simply teleports me back to an earlier point in the map? Nope. No, it does not. You kick the bucket if you fall off these paths, lending a tremendous sense of tension to these initial encounters here, and an even bigger sense of tension to bridging the jumps between platforms. Thankfully, the gravity here is very reduced, meaning that you can jump higher and further if necessary, but still, it's a little weird to get used to. Happily, it's not too long till you find yourself in slightly more firmer feeling environments and get to grips with more of the residents of Void and Rainbow, which typically tend to be reskinned imps and a whole boatload of shotgun types. Speaking of shotguns, you may notice that the one I'm currently wielding isn't the traditional shotgun you'd expect from Doom or Doom 2, but players and fans of Doom 64 will notice it right away. And this goes for all of the weapons present here in Void and Rainbow, taking the cues from the Doom 64 versions, even coming down to the double-bladed chainsaw, which you can find by flipping a few switches and navigating up this path to the top. The map does periodically return to jumping between various floaty platforms, occasionally complicating matters with fresh combinations of enemies. By far my least favorite combination, however, has to be the shotgunners, which after a while you realize this map has a raging hard-on for. They seem to be by far the most plentiful enemy type, and just to make things that extra bit little annoying to deal with, it's not just standard shotgunners you also have to deal with, but also super shotgunners, which can occasionally nail you from windows far away that are really hard to see through because the sprites tend to blend in quite well with the darkened grey that dominates between the flashing rainbow colors. Another thing that you'll discover fairly quickly is that Void and Rainbow has a bit of a mean streak running through it. I mean, come on. Putting a crusher on a key platform? Dick move. And it's this kind of thing that seems at odds with the atmosphere of Void and Rainbow, especially if you consider something like the soundtrack, which, if you listen to it, is downright soothing and peaceful, but this map is anything but. In fact, during the course of this, you're going to run into a fair number of ambushes, be it enemies teleporting behind you, enemies emerging from the ground, or simply pillars dropping to reveal a load of imps, such as this situation right here. Point being, you're going to be spending quite a lot of time applying shotgun pellets to face. For me, this unfortunately got pretty repetitive rather quickly. You do spend quite a significant amount of time here wielding the standard shotgun, and before long I was desperately craving that super shotgun upgrade. At this particular point, another little issue reared its head, and that's the fact that the step just in front of this door is actually something that caused me to die a whole bunch, and that's because at first I wasn't aware that it was a step, and I was hitting jump, only my character wasn't actually connecting with the floor because of the diminished gravity, causing me to just float directly into the pit below, which was a little frustrating, as you can imagine. But after a few tries, I figured out what was up, had a little bit of patience, and used that little step down before I actually jumped across. It's also fairly fortunate that I was on the ball with my quick saving during this particular session, because otherwise I would have had to retread a whole bunch of level just to get back to this part, and that could have been a massive headache, the kind of thing that would cause me to just give up and try something else. Another thing that I feel Void and Rainbow suffers from as you get further through it is something I like to call complexity creep. It's something that frequently happens when dealing with larger maps, and it's mostly figuring out how to navigate back after you've already unlocked a significant chunk of the level. The paths start to split and multiply, and it becomes very, very easy to run yourself in circles if you miss the correct cue. And another issue that compounds this is the flashing colors on all of the light-based surfaces. It makes it really hard to spot where the actual door is that you need to unlock with the said thing. I mean, sure, it'll only have a static color on it reflecting the orb that you've currently got, but good luck spotting that in the ocean of color that you're currently dealing with. I do have to say though, after a while, that repeating rainbow pattern did cause me to kind of glaze over. It was a little too hypnotic for its own good, to such a degree that I was barely noticing the level I was traveling through anymore. If you asked me about the geography and the layout of the place, I'd just say it turned into some kind of psychedelic mush, with only certain bits actually standing out to me. I did quite enjoy this little section here, however, if only for the really nice job it does of encouraging you to just go for it and jump through the hoops, and also the nice sensation of being catapulted across the chasm to this castle on the other side, even if it just acts as a teleporter. If there's one section I really didn't enjoy having to deal with here in Void and Rainbow, I'd have to say it would be this section right here. This is a fairly self-contained part. You have to jump across to these various compartments, flip switches, and dodge the horde of efforts that spawn along the way. It's definitely not in your interest to take them all on by yourself, even if you do have a rocket launcher. In fact, the best way to deal with it is get them involved in infighting with the Arachnorb Queen that's also trying to hunt you down at the same time. It's a part that requires a fair amount of trial and error to get through, and the fact that this area is suspended above Deadly Void certainly doesn't help matters along, because one wrong slip and yep, it's back to that quick save point. In fact, that's something that I noticed quite a lot during my playthrough of Void and Rainbow. I was leaning very, very heavily on the old quick save button, and I feel like that's something that breaks the flow. Ideally, you don't want to have to feel obliged to hit it near enough every room you go into, but in some of these sections you feel like it's a requirement, because the ambushes can sometimes come out of nowhere and completely screw you over, and some sections are designed as such that mistakes are punished severely. But I think the final irritation that cemented this as a section I really dislike is the fact that once you actually deal with all of this chaos and get to the switch you need to flip, it's not entirely clear where the hell you need to go afterwards. I mean, the switch is on the other side of the pillar here, which I missed, but your eye is led to taking you down this path, so you end up doing some low-gravity parkour all over the place, and it doesn't really help you out at all. Survive all of that, however, and you'll find yourself in an interesting and pretty damn challenging boss fight, which I have to admit came as a complete surprise. Not to mention the fact that this also provides you with a rainbow plasma gun of all things. Now the trick to this particular fight is that you're constantly having to refill this weapon, only the orbs don't always spawn in the same place, encouraging you to use the bounce pads to traverse up and down the arena. Shielding yourself from the boss's attacks is also paramount here, and that's where I started to lean very much on this central pillar, which was very handy for hiding behind and just buying myself a little bit of time to think about my next move, because the enemy here is fairly relentless. Its attacks have a fair bit of spread to them, and occasionally it can rain down rainbow particles on the platform you're currently standing on, so every aspect of this is designed to keep you moving. Further adding to the stakes of this fight is the knowledge that if you fall off the lower set of platforms here, you're dead. But yeah, I'd definitely say that this is hands down my favorite part of Void and Rainbow. It's a nice shot of adrenaline at the end and makes the effort almost seem worth it. It's a section that really tests you, that feels like a meaty, fun challenge, and you would not believe the amount of attempts I had at this fight. What you're seeing right now is the fruit of many failures. It certainly takes a while to get used to the platforming, to the jump pads, to gauging how much room you have to play with, but once you do, and once you have that perfect run against this boss, good grief, does it feel fantastic. So, would I recommend Void and Rainbow? If only to reach this boss battle at the end, I'd say yes. I mean, sure, the boss battle itself doesn't excuse all the frustration that I experienced in the lead up to it, but still, Void and Rainbow is a really damn interesting map that does a lot of pretty cool stuff. So, if you're willing to tolerate a little bit of irritation, I'm sure you can definitely find some enjoyment from this particular entry. But in any case, if you're interested in checking this out for yourself, the link is in the description below. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Feel free to let me know what you thought in the comments, and feel free to suggest any mods you'd like to see me cover in future episodes of Doom Mod Madness. This has been Mr. Icarus. Thank you very much for watching. Icarus out.